everyone, I'm Ting Wen, and I'm honored to be able to speak to an international audience at this event. I will be sharing about bilingualism and mother languages in multicultural Singapore, and my journey of language learning within the Singapore school system. 大家好，我是Ting Wen，我今天会介绍多元文化的新加坡，以及分享我国双语政策和自己对母语的意义。Bonjour à tous, je m'appelle Ting Wen et j'ai 13 ans. J'ai très heureuse d'être ici. Hola, me llamo Ting Wen y tengo 13 años. Me alegro de estar aquí. Selamat datang, nama saya Ting Wen. Umur saya 13 tahun. Saya dari Singapura. Before I begin, I would like to clarify a common misconception that Singapore is part of China. Even though our largest ethnic group is indeed Chinese, much of our population also consists of other races who have similarly migrated here from their homeland decades ago. The four main ethnic groups are Chinese, Malay, Tamil, and Eurasian. This emphasizes the importance of learning another language that may not be your mother tongue, because one of the biggest benefits is being able to connect with other people different from us. 弹丸小岛 大多数人民虽然是华裔，但我们还有马来族、印度族和欧亚族同胞。我们通常用英语和其他宗教朋友沟通。要是能用母语交谈，当然能够更深入的进行交流。My language journey started when I picked up English words, and being young, I could memorize lots of information easily. Since I am of Chinese race, I'm expected to learn my mother tongue at a young age, so picking it up was no problem for me with my parents' guidance. I took up French when I was 2 to gain exposure to a foreign language, and Malay when I was 2.5, as it would be easier to interact with Singapore's large Malay community. As French and Spanish have many similarities, I picked up Spanish just last year. 英语是我学到的第一个语言，过后我在幼儿时期学了华语、法语和马来语。12岁时，我开始学西班牙语。Les premières langues que j'ai apprises sont anglais et chinois. J'ai appris français quand j'étais 2 et malais quand j'étais 3. L'année dernière, j'ai commencé d'apprendre l'espagnol. These are some places that have supported me in my language learning. My school was named after the founder of Singapore, Stamford Raffles. The colonization of Singapore from 1819 to 1965 resulted in the influence of the British on Singapore. This included assimilating the British education system, which we still follow closely now. In secondary school, we are educated in multiple subjects: English, mother tongue, math, science, and humanities. One of the places where I learned my third language is the Ministry of Education Centre. They have supported me in learning French as a third language, and it is a formal subject for me in school, which counts to my final grade every year. Many studies have shown that learning foreign languages help children improve in their own mother tongue. Learning a foreign language helps children develop more communication and writing skills, and enables them to understand the rules in their own mother tongue better. Such rules include grammar and vocabulary. However, some children can grow up with 2 mother tongues. If a child is in a mixed family, his or her parents have the choice to decide if they should be bilingual and educate them in either language, or both. I have benefited from a situation whereby my father speaks predominantly Chinese to me, while my mother speaks mainly English to me. The Singapore Ministry of Education Language Centre currently offers 4 languages to eligible students: French, Spanish, Japanese, and German. They have supported our learning greatly through projects, interactive activities, and group work. At our national examination, we can take a third language as a subject. The O-level French examination, which we take at 16, is compatible with the DELF B1 level for French, and the A-levels, which we take at 18, is compatible with DELF B2 to DELF C1 level. The DELF and DELF examinations are French exams organized by the Ministry of Education in France and aim to test candidates' French abilities. Attaining C2 level is my dream, which indicates the level of a native French speaker. À MOELC, nous pouvons choisir d'étudier français, japonais, espagnol ou allemand. Les leçons sont intéressantes, avec plein de discussions et jeux interactifs. Nous travaillons beaucoup dans nos groupes aussi. Mon rêve est d'obtenir le DALF C2. We'll look at some uniquely Singaporean signboards. They show our 4 national languages: English, Chinese, Malay, and Tamil. Interestingly, certain mother languages sometimes borrow words from other languages. For example, market is called pasar in Malay, which is literally translated to pasha in Chinese. This word is derived from bazaar, which is a Persian word. I'm quite amazed at how Persian can be converted to Malay and then Chinese. Terdapat banyak terjemahan papan tanda di sekitar Singapura dalam 4 bahasa kebangsaan kita. Seperti contoh, papan ini memudahkan pembacaan. We shall now look at the historical basis of multicultural Singapore. Singapore, having people of so many different races, is due to migration in the 19th to 20th century, where people looked for work to support their families. Since Singapore was a trading hub, many immigrants worked here, which explains our multicultural society. Soon, we were separated into different towns by our colonial masters. Hence, the locals had little interaction with those of other races. After we gained independence, our government removed this town plan, and we now have ethnic integration, where there's a quota for every ethnic group in an apartment block. This ensures that we can communicate and learn how to share common spaces with our neighbors. Singapore is now renowned for being a peaceful and racially harmonious society. Let's take a historical look at one of the most effective campaigns launched by our first Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, in 1979, who wanted to unite Singaporean Chinese in using a common language instead of identifying themselves as different dialect groups. This had a profound impact on the education policy in Singapore, which lasts till today. 新加坡的第一任总理李光耀在1979年推广了讲华语运动，这是为了团结所有的华人，减少方言的使用。En 1979, notre premier ministre Lee Kuan Yew a fait une campagne pour que nous parlons plus en plus de chinois. Cette campagne est très efficace et nous parlons chinois maintenant. In a speech by Prime Minister Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, at the opening of the Speak Mandarin campaign on Friday, 21st of September 1984, one abiding reason which we have to why we're to persist in bilingualism is that English will not be emotionally acceptable as our mother tongue. And to have no emotionally acceptable language as our mother tongue is to be emotionally crippled. Mandarin unites the different dialect groups and is also emotionally acceptable as our mother tongue. Quoted in the Straits Times newspaper, having made English the working language of government and administration, what should we do about the mother tongues? The government has decided that, however unpleasant, each racial group must learn his mother tongue as a second language. If we only have English and we allow the other languages to vanish, we face a very serious problem of identity and culture. Bilingualism is important. However, is complete mastery of 2 languages even possible? It may not exactly mean mastering 2 languages, but being very comfortable in the 4 components of each language, namely speaking, listening, reading, and writing. Here's something for each of us to think about. We have 4 main languages spoken in Singapore: English, Mandarin, Malay, and Tamil. English has now overtaken Chinese as the most frequently spoken language at home, more so in recent years. On the other hand, the other languages are spoken less frequently at home. This is because English is used for business and is the main language used in schools for subjects such as math, science, and humanities. As the years evolved, Chinese dialects became less prominent, whilst the use of Mandarin and other mother tongues has also decreased. One could say that Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew's policy of reducing dialect use has been successful, but Chinese has now been overtaken by English. Our schools place a strong emphasis on languages. There are many activities organized in schools, such as fairs, book reading, and talks, to instill a love for our mother tongue. However, look at the array of assessment books at the top left-hand corner. The primary school leaving examination is a very important milestone in our education, which we take at 12. It is very stressful as the standards are high and questions are often challenging. We are constantly pressured to get good grades in the subjects tested, namely English, mother tongue, math, and science. English and mother tongue are equally weighted, which again emphasizes the importance the education system puts into being bilingual. However, many students have problems scoring in their mother tongue language. This is an area of controversy because not many students can attain a high level in English and mother tongue, yet they have an equal weightage in the all-important national exam, which is mandatory for all 12-year-old students to progress to secondary school. To instill a love for our mother tongue, our government has organized many fairs, symposiums, and festivals, such as what is shown here. These aim to give children more exposure to their mother tongue language. Like this symposium above, many of the programs organized have been very effective in allowing us to learn our mother tongue in a fun and interactive way. What is your mother tongue? I am often stunned when foreigners ask me this seemingly straightforward question. Do I tell them that my mother tongue is Mandarin Chinese because I'm a Chinese Singaporean and Mandarin Chinese is the mother tongue designated to me by the state? I would then have to explain why Mandarin Chinese is my mother tongue, because even though I do not use it that often, and it was not the language I first encountered as a child, however, I would consider both English and Chinese as my mother tongues, as I use English more often, but I learned Chinese as a mother tongue because of my ethnicity. Professor Tan from the Nanyang University of Singapore, there are 4 definitions of a mother tongue. Firstly, the linguistic repertoire to which a child is exposed to. From birth. Secondly, the language in which one is most proficient in. Thirdly, the set of important and personal domains which a language is used the most. Language identification is the language used by a speaker for community identification. This community can be ethnic, cultural, or national. These are the questions we can ask ourselves to determine what our mother tongue is, based on the article written by Professor Tan. What is the first language or first languages to which I'm exposed from birth? What is the language in which I'm most proficient? What is or are the languages I use the most? And what is or are the languages that I would say is mine? Your answer to these 4 questions will be your real mother tongue. For myself, I was exposed to English and Chinese from birth, as my parents taught me English before Chinese. Hence, I'm the most proficient in English as I use it the most. The 4th question would lead me to a dilemma as I feel an equal sense of belonging for English and Chinese. I honestly do not know the answer to this question yet, but hopefully next time I can answer this. These are the places I have visited and they have improved my languages greatly. For me, traveling deepens my language exposure and I can talk to the natives there. For example, I interacted with French-speaking locals in France and Switzerland and Chinese locals in Taiwan, China, and Malaysia. It is also amazing to appreciate the different accents of Chinese spoken in different countries. 以下是我去过的一些国家，我从这些旅游能跟本地人沟通，所以我可以从他们学到很多。我去中国或台湾时，能跟那里的本地人讲话；到法国和瑞士旅游，能让我练习法语。As part of the bilingual program that my school organized, I visited Fujian, China, with a group of students from different schools when I was 11. The aim of this week-long immersion trip was for us to learn more about our school's roots and immerse ourselves in Chinese culture, with activities such as talking to locals, visiting galleries, and even going to local schools to learn about the differences in our curriculum and engage in lessons. One part of the journey I enjoyed was visiting the house of our school's founder, where we even managed to step into his room and look at his daily items to understand more about his life. This immersion program was an insightful one for me, as it helped me understand our culture better. My grasp of Chinese language improved tremendously after this trip. The teachers on this trip were also strict and enforced a no English policy, as we were there to immerse ourselves in pure Chinese. 3年前，我与同学们参加了福建的祭母活动，我们从那次旅游深深融入华族文化，也体验了一名中国学生的学习环境。So what are my current language priorities? Firstly, I would like to improve in English and Chinese as I use them the most, and I'm striving for mastery in both of them. My goals are to be able to have the same standard of English as a native British and the same standard of Chinese as a native Chinese. For French, I'm planning to take it as a subject for the A-levels national examination. This will open more doors to different universities, especially in French-speaking countries. As for Spanish and Malay, I will continue practicing and improving in them, as Malay is one of Singapore's 4 main languages, and Malays constitute a significant proportion of the Singapore population. Spanish is also important as Singapore creates new links with Latin America, opening up trade and business opportunities. I've come to the end of my presentation. Hope you have gained an insight into our language journey, the bilingual policy of Singapore, and our education system.